All right, let me check the other channel, make sure that we are live. Cool. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lucky Ocean podcast, where we have Jar and Sammy from Jar Studios. And, we just had a new year, guys, so happy New Year's. Hopefully y'all's was a good new year. But how you guys doing today? I'll start with Jar. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Yeah, what can I say? Energy levels are good. Um, yeah, New Year still hasn't hit me yet though, but yeah, feeling good in general. So yeah, thanks.
Nice. And how about you, Sammy? How you doing?
Good my way and just sheltering from the wind. I'm on holiday. I got the ocean behind me.
Nice.
Nice.
So, yeah, so I'll be back in New York City in about a week. So until then, down in Florida. And for all the Florida peeps listening.
Nice. That's what's up, man. And you guys have a collection coming up tomorrow, which is pretty crazy. I know you wanted to get on probably a little bit sooner, but I took off last Wednesday for family and stuff, and the Wednesdays before that we were kind of busy. But I'm glad I could get you on at least the day before your new mint coming up. So why don't you kind of talk to us about that mint and how it all started, and kind of some of your maybe inspiration behind the collection coming up.
Yeah. Well, the project is called Islands in the Sky, and it's my second NFT project in Cardano. I mean, only in Cardano, and it's basically a collection that stems from 1,000 VR sculptures that I did, and basically there are 3,000 NFTs in this collection, and I use kind of like the generative aspect of coding along with the help of a friend to kind of work my way around the 3D environment using these 1,000 sculptures. And the way this project works is, uh, as you can see here, what you're seeing here is one perspective out of 12. So as you can imagine, this sculpture here has 12 potential points of views that are circled around it. And along with the 1,000 unique sculptures and the generative aspects that I put together, I kind of put up this kind of way of seeing that people can kind of get when they purchase the project. And yeah, this is for me more of a conceptual project compared to my last one, which is called Jarheads. And the concept here is basically when we're all young, and we're surrounded by nature, one of our first ways to interpret anything is by kind of like looking up in the sky and kind of figuring what that kind of cloud looks like and arguing your friend if you're seeing the same thing. And for me, that was really important, I think, especially when it comes to generative art. I wanted to push the needle a bit, and yeah, this is it. This is the project we're releasing tomorrow, and I'm extremely proud of it.
So when this goes live tomorrow, and what time will that be tomorrow?
6 p.m. UTC. And that'll
6
be
p.m.
for
UTC.
the 24-hour window for the Jarheads holders. And then on the 5th at 6 p.m. UTC, it'll be open to the public.
Gotcha. So these jar heads right here are the jar heads that give you whitelist access for the first 24 hours.
Correct.
And that'll be for, is it 79 ADA?
79 ADA. Correct.
79 ADA. And then for the public, it's how much?
119.
119. Gotcha. And then there's going to be 3,000 of your new collection. Is that correct?
Yes.
3,000?
Yep, 3,000.
Nice. So you were saying earlier too with your newest collection that these are, when you look up at the cloud, somebody sees something and somebody sees something else. So this is basically just a bunch of different perspectives that you've seen on life. Is that fair to say?
Well, I think anyone that kind of takes a look at any of these 3,000, they're going to have to kind of stare at it a bit longer because, they're not, the thing that they're going to see isn't going to show themselves right away, I think. well, at least for me, I mean, if we're looking at this one right now, I can't give you an answer straight away, but eventually it's gonna come. And well, for this one in particular, I'm curious actually to hear what you think or what you're seeing, Atlantic, because I always get a kick out of hearing what other people have to say.
Let me go look at a few of them. This one I might have to look at longer, like you say. I think the first thing I would say is a heart. And every time I've just kind of like briefly looked away and then looked back, I just kind of see a heart. I don't know if that's because of the warm colors as well around it, but that's kind of what I see with that one. With this one, I think this one's really cool. I kind of see like the legs right here, and this one getting ready to kind of like push off of something. Obviously, it's not ground because you're in the sky, but it kind of looks like a runner. Like this is the head, and this is his arm back, and this is the other arm like fully extended, and this is like his legs out. This one looks like a track runner to me. What is
No,
that?
that's
Is
awesome.
that what y'all see?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And like, no, like you're absolutely right. Like the heart looking one, it takes a while for me to kind of like, all right. But I love that that's what you said. But the runner
It's
one,
funny
that's
is that
something else. Awesome.
the other one is like a flying squirrel to me. It's crazy. Like I see a flying squirrel like it's trying to spread its wings with its legs in the back, you know.
You never
But
told me that before, Sammy, but yeah, I love it.
I know I never told you. You know what's interesting is that Jar is absolutely right. When you see the full collection, Lord willing, we mint out here. You know, it won't take too long. But when you see the full collection, you're going to see some really ones that take time to figure it out, and then you're going to see some ones that really speak to you right away. There's one I can't remember exactly what number it is, but it reminded me of like this mother holding this child like very gently in her arms, and because of the just the curvature of the cloud, you're just going to see a lot of different things in the clouds, but it won't be right away. It's not going to be like, oh, that's easily you know the Grinch from Christmas or something like that. You got to really think about it, and that's part of the aspect about art. And degens don't like to think. Degens like to be. They like for you to think for them, and so this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think you were telling me earlier that this is similar to art that you would see on other chains. And how do you guys think that the Cardano community will respond to art like this? Because we haven't had too many artistic projects on Cardano. I know we've had a few, but I don't think we've had any like higher class, like just art focused projects. We don't have very many.
Well, personally, after thinking and working on this project for a long time, I'd like to think that this is kind of like a good starting ground in terms of what a project like this um, can be as like as an introductory kind of way and like more a conceptual project, as I'd like to say, just because it's something that every single one of us has kind of pretty much experienced, like growing up, like we're surrounded by it every day. I mean, if you go outside, right? And funnily enough, sometimes we tend even I am like even I forget to look up at the clouds sometimes and appreciate really like the beauty that's pretty much in front of us 24/7. um and I think when you kind of ground things in nature and kind of keep things basic, which I like to think this is as basic as it can get, it can along with the interpretation part, it makes it, I would like to think, pretty easy for people to kind of just get their foot like in front of the other and just kind of think and kind of see what they can come up with, which I think is pretty much the thing that I will really am looking forward to in terms of seeing what people see and kind of yeah.
And what's cool is that this there's a few different aspects that we want to touch on for sure. One of the aspects is there's a there's a latitude and longitude to each NFT, and so each NFT lives somewhere in the world. This cloud lives somewhere specifically, and so when you get your NFT, you'll be able to look up exactly where it is. Some might be over Antarctica, some might be over the Pacific Ocean, some might be over Georgia, some might be over Berlin. We don't know exactly where all of them are going to be. So when you mint it, you'll be able to find out where that is, and then you can look around and see if you want to find one and collect one in a certain spot. So that's one cool feature of it. Um, Another cool feature of it is that they're at different times of the day. So you're going to have some during the sunrise, and then midday, and then sunset, and a few other portions of the day. So they each have a different feel with the lighting and the angles. And not all sunrises are going to be all reds or oranges. There's different aspects depending on where the sun is, and depending on at what point of the sunrise that your NFT comes, because it'll have a specific time on there too. So there'll be a time and a location, and then the sort of the time of the grouping of day from the sunrise to the sunset.
Almost didn't unmute. No, that's awesome, man. I think too, with people coming into the ecosystem, they've been coming in mainly through meme coins, right? Lately, we had Kiseki or Kiseki launch recently with like a stealth drop, which was super crazy, right? And yes, it has utility. And I don't know if do you guys know about Kiseki that launched recently?
Yep, of course, of course. And well, we won't get into who got paid for pumping it, but yeah, of course.
Yeah. I actually just joined the Jupiter group like a week ago, and I like them. I haven't heard like all the negativity that kind of like got thrown at them, but yeah, he was paid as a marketer or an advisor, and the exact amount wasn't disclosed, and I think that's what people were really bothered by. But it is what it is. I think. I'm going to get away from that topic. But like where I was trying to go with that, just because I'm only getting away from it because I'll go down this tangent forever. But the point I'm trying to make is that people come through and they join these ecosystems through meme coins, right? But there's essentially nothing there for most meme coins, not Kaseki, but most meme coins, there's nothing there, right? But people come and they join them, and that's how they find out about these ecosystems. And then now with art, it's kind of that's what NFTs used to be too. It was like there's not necessarily utility behind these NFTs. Like these are NFTs for NFT's sake. And here is the art, and people at the beginning of NFTs would buy these sorts of things and get onboarded into the DeFi, of either Ethereum or Solana or Cardano. So I just want maybe people to think about this too, because I think NFTs will make a comeback. And your last collection minted for 33, I'll bring up the jar heads again. And these things went parabolic. Like they don't look like they did amazing based on the price right now, but they did. These things were like 1,300 ADA, maybe 1,500. I don't know where they peaked, but these things went absolutely crazy. So I don't know if that's going to happen, with the new collection as well. But what I'm trying to say is I do think that it could be a potential onboarding event.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that as an art project, like a real art project, most projects they hire an artist, and the project is not centered around the artist, but the artist is around the project. Whereas Jar, there's not many projects where everything around it is about the artist, right? And so you'd have to really think about that on Cardano to find that. And so we're in a unique position where it's like, we can't really provide people some get rich quick type thing utility or any sort of crazy utility. But what we were thinking of is that where I think this collection will also shine is that, Lord willing, we can mint out and it gives us room to grow the collection. And that's one feature that we haven't discussed yet. So over time, we want to release different angles of each person's NFT. And so what will happen is that your NFT will actually grow, and they'll be adding to your NFT different angles from that specific NFT. So it'll be different angles or different zoom levels. And so what that will provide you is you'll almost be collecting a collection within a collection. And just as you look at the clouds, and you can't say, I want to turn the cloud this way, but somebody on the other side, 10 miles away might see the cloud in a different angle. So you're going to be able to see your cloud in a different angle over time. So they'll be released over time. And that's something that gives the art project organic growth and organic, like a runway to live in a way.
So will it be like different JPEGs of different angles, or will it be something that you can go into pool.pm, look at your wallet, and kind of spin it around?
No, they'll be actually different. They'll obviously this takes rendering and doing a different coding again, and obviously takes money. But the point is that they will be different PNGs added to your NFT. So you'll have a running collection of images over time that are added to it. Now you get a GLB file also with your NFT, which you can go into Pool PM and you can move it around, but it's not in that environment, right? It's just the sculpture because of this is technology hasn't really given us uh, the power to do it within each environment yet. So you'll get the GLB, but it's also there's a good foundation for us to do different things in the future with 3D, uh, that type of thing. But for now, we really wanted to hone in on this releasing of different angles over time. And Jar probably has something to say about that.
Yeah, no, I'm this is the thing that I was really excited about, especially because making these project like making this project itself, like I had to use VR, like which meant I had like a 360 like degree view of making each and every sculpture. And when I was applying code to kind of generate these images as we see here, I had no idea how they were going to turn out. Like I just made the sculptures, and the randomness of one of the 12 cameras to show up, and the randomness of how many of the 1000 is going to be like put together, like as you can see here, like it was really such a like a curative process that I had to kind of just sift through so many kind of possibilities. And now that I had selected the 3000, and like going through each and one of them again, like there's so many times that just for one, like for example this one here, I would look around in so many different ways, and man, I wish I could take a photo of this, I wish I could take a photo of that, like even close up. Like it's a shame that, I mean, I'm very excited to show people in the future, but like just angles of close up, it's like it's an entirely different like piece in itself. And I'm really excited about that. Of course, like we're here at like with the 3000, the initial 3000 first, but yeah, like as soon as this project's released, and as soon as we can like as soon as I can experiment with different things and other people can do that as well, I think it's going to be such a collaborative process that's going to keep this thing going in ways that I hope can lead into even more new ideas that can influence me and kind of just continue this creative journey that we're all on.
So when you say that you had to use VR and you could look at these different angles and stuff, are you hand picking the ones that you think look the coolest?
No, hand picking, sometimes yes, like sometimes no. Like when I'm making them, it's a really weird process with this Adobe medium. Like you can sometimes I finish a piece and I leave it there, but I add another layer so I can see how it would look like potentially working them two together. And it's like all sorts of different combinations. I tried doing stuff without any a blank canvas with three different layers on top. So, but at the end of the day, when you put in the code, you never really know what you're gonna get. So, yeah.
Yeah, did you find that there's like an even amount of different day, night, evening backgrounds, or will there maybe be more mornings than night, more nights than evenings, stuff like that?
Man, this was like the part of the project that I really pulled my hair on. Like I was really struggling with, man, because like this planet we're on, it never, it's always moving, it always changes, even with the time, even with the times of day. Like for example, here in Berlin, it was already dark at like 4 p.m. And like just trying to take into account like how the sun moves, and like just going through all these as many YouTube videos as I can find. And one thing about this project, as people will see, like I had to put my own experience with um, daylight into this project, because this project starts at 6 a.m. and ends at 6 p.m., because there's no way like possible that you'd have to put an end to the start time or the end time, because where does the day really start and where does the night really start? So coming from the Philippines, where I live in on the equator, you kind of get the most equal 12 hours a day as you can get. And like foolish me, I was like, when I moved to Berlin, you see how even the sun looks different. Like the way the sunlight hits the city is also different. And I really hope it's something that can be shown in this project. But obviously it's a creative touch at the end of the day that we're doing here. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
there's like
yeah.
the philosophical, what is real, what's not real, when does the day start, when does the day end, and
Yeah.
it changes where you're at, right? Like in New York, it gets dark at 4:30. In Florida, it's at like 6:30 in the winter. But as far as like how many, there's definitely less sunrises and sunsets when it comes to like those vibrant, amazing colors. Because when you think about the day, right, like those colors, there's like a window for those colors. Like if you're on the beach and you're overlooking the sunset, you might get like a half an hour of those brilliant colors. Whereas in in a normal day, you'll have more blue skies. And I think we did a good job of keeping a nice variety
Oh no. He was spitting
sunrise and
facts.
sunsets.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, you cut out for a very short time.
Oh man! All right,
We
but
heard most of it.
okay, I think we did a good job of kind of really, because we don't have a rarity. Like we don't want rarity, but at the same time, there's like a rarity in life, in everyday life, right? Like you only get 30 minutes for the spectacular sunrise and spectacular sunset. So in our project, not you're not going to have 70% of them be sunrise and sunsets, right? It's going to be more ratio of the mid mornings, afternoons, late afternoons. But you're going to still get you still get maybe, I don't know exactly the exact number, I didn't count them, but there's probably, let's say, 700 or 700 that are amazing, brilliant colors, something like that.
Yeah, I really like the oranger ones. Let's see if I can find some more like where we
Go
had that
go to
other
our go to our Twitter. Oh yeah, well
go to
there's an
Twitter.
orange one there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, here I'll go to Twitter real quick because I got to find more to show y'all. Jar Studio, share this
Our
tab.
Twitter or Discord.
Oh, like this one,
yeah.
like I love these dark, warm colors. Like this could be a
Yeah, it's
background.
beautiful.
I could just melt in my chair and just stare at this. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if
Oh,
anybody else does that, but I've sometimes just like find myself just sitting at my computer desk, just like staring at a background, doing nothing.
I love
And
that, man.
right, and this is like such a warm color to just kind of like sit to. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody else
that's
does that.
no. If you and you know what's even crazier, that if you go anyway, if you put on some like music that you really love, that really vibes with the feeling, and you stare at it with the colors, it really brings it all together. I mean, I wish we made it into a music thing, but I think putting on music that brings you into sort of this meditative state, and I don't mean some crazy meditative state, but I mean just in a place of peace and tranquility and thinking about life and thoughtfulness, and putting that on in the background and thinking about that, where that cloud exists and where you exist in relation to that cloud, I think really does bring out the depth of it.
Yeah, I wonder too because these colors are so easy on the eyes. So as far as like a collection, having colors that are really warm and inviting and calm, as opposed to like these very vibrant, like we could go back to, something like this blue or whatever, like it really pops out at you. Um, I wonder how that works on somebody who owns an NFT. Like, are they happier to own warm, like calmer colors, or are they more likely to own or want to own something a little bit more vibrant? Do y'all have any takes on that?
I have no clue, to be honest with you, but I'm very, very curious to see how like what the community leans towards. Um, for me personally, I like a bit of that mid morning, to like mid-afternoon, right when like it's about right when the colors are about to get really vibrant. Because there I get a bit more, you know, like contours with the white and the blue still, like, because I love blue, like clear blue sky for me is just wow. And yeah, for me it's just, I think the sunset and the sunrise are still gonna be um heavily favored, but yeah, that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, what is man? Now I'm losing my mind. Atlanta, what does Charles say? Welcome to warm, sunny Colorado, right? And so you think about Colorado, it's blue skies. You think about those blue skies in Colorado. So a lot of people do love blue. I love blue skies. I'm looking at a blue sky right now. I think. Listen, I, I would assume that the majority of people are gonna really love these color tones. I think those are going to be the most popular. And at the same time, I do, maybe just because there's less of them, but because they're just so, they pull you in one direction or the other. Whereas the blue sky, it seems to be more plain, but a blue sky everybody loves. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody wants there to be a sunny blue sky for the day. It gets their mood up. So it's going to be interesting to see how people interact with a blue sky on the NFT, and maybe if there's a correlation with real life. But again, I think the color ones are going to be the most popular.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if I'm at like an office desk or something and my background is like very vibrant blue and I also have a lot of windows and it's like morning and it's like the sun's coming in and like that's perfect. That's like such a perfect setting. But also if I have that desk and I'm, like a darker person or whatever, I got all the shades up, and I've got like my night lights on or whatever and my mood lamps and it's like a warm color like this, like that could really set the tone for work as well. So I guess it all is just preference.
No, yeah, exactly, man. And like right now, I have my wallpaper into one of these clouds as well, so I know what you mean. Like I've experienced it, so yeah, it's a vibe for sure. Especially as Sammy said, when you put on some music on, and I guess you kind of like kind of shut down for the day, and the last thing you see is like the is your wallpaper. I think that's for me. It's been great.
Especially
Yeah,
when you've built it too, right? There's like that sense of pride, like this is mine and I like it. And like, it just kind of fills you with joy when you've built something that you're proud of.
Like really, like listen, there's really nothing better, especially when you're finished with the project. Um, Knowing that you've done everything that you could, and the fact that you're looking at something that other people can have the opportunity to not only own but to give their own interpretation to it, which I think is the thing I'm really looking forward to. uh, so yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a loss for words. Seriously, it's been so fun and at the same time very challenging, but wouldn't have it any
yeah.
other way, man.
And it's interesting to see because a lot of people, a lot of people still don't know Jar very well, but they know his style from Jarheads, and they know his style from a lot of the traditional art that he's done. Um, and when some people first saw this, they were kind of confused because it wasn't the exact same style. Now, I think if you've seen enough of his stuff, you definitely see Jar in there. But what Jar really took, he really growed as an artist. He really grew as an artist in this project, and stretched himself in ways that were difficult. And I think it shows. And I think that what people are going to realize is that in it's like if you listen to music, right, and you really like a band, you really like their first album, like you're in love with their first album, and then their second album, you're like, man, they took a turn. I don't know if I dig that yet. But then you begin to listen to it and you begin to say, okay, you know what, I enjoy that. And not only that, you begin to allow the artist to grow on his own without you having to dictate what he should do. And I think that's what we don't do a lot in this space. We want people to make something that we want to like right away and we want to buy and we want to flip. Whereas we don't give room for artists to grow. We don't give room for artists to create what they're inspired to create. And I think this project really speaks to that because nobody would have guessed that Jar would have done a project like this. They would have guessed it would be something that looks like Jarheads or something along those lines. But to have something like this shows why it's important to let an artist grow as he or she decides to grow and come along for the ride. And that's what, again, where I say this is a project built around an artist, not an artist hired for a project.
I
I
like
mean,
that perspective. Sorry, go on.
just to add to that, I think for any artists out there, no, they should be making art first and foremost for themselves. I think from if I'm getting it correctly from what Sammy's saying, if hypothetically, if someone makes art for the community, or I don't think it's, I think it's very dangerous as an artist, because you're you're just guessing. You're just guessing like, oh, like I'm making this rather than making it for yourself, you're making it for someone else, and I think it's very dangerous, especially if you get too deep into this kind of thinking. Any artist, I think, any human being that did anything creative was doing it out of their exploration of their own self, out of their own creativity. And I mean, maybe I'm going on a tangent here, but yeah, it's very important, I think, that we kind of remind ourselves that at the end of the day, the art we're making, even though there is a community involved here, the integrity of an artist, I think it should be protected at all costs. So yeah.
Yeah, you went from, and I'll show it one more time, these jar heads. So this is what they're talking about. Like it is, somewhat different to then go, I mean, very different to go to these now clouds, but you can see that it is still abstract. Like it's not just a perfect cloud. It wasn't just a perfect face, right? It was all in interpretation. So your art is still very much, how I view it is like exploration of visual, like what am I visually seeing and what is it actually, right? And all of that in between. It can be literally anything. The faces could be anything. They could be any person. They could maybe even be a girl or a boy. It doesn't matter, right? And these
You could
clouds,
you could be Jesse Pinkman. You could be Jesse Pinkman.
damn it, have you seen my other streams where people have called me that before? Or are you just picking that up right now?
No, of course, bro. Of course.
Bro, that is so freaking funny. I think it's hilarious every time people say it because I don't see it, but yeah, when I
Hey,
have like
Jar,
photos.
Jar, you seen Breaking Bad, right?
Of course, man.
Doesn't he? Bro, he's Jesse Pinkman.
I don't see it so much, but I mean, maybe it'll grow on me. I don't know, but hey, man, me, that's a compliment. I love Breaking Bad. I haven't watched Jesse's movie though, but yeah,
Jesse has a
Breaking Bad
movie?
for me is like he has a movie like they made like a spin-off movie, I think, on Netflix about
I
what
think I know what you're
happened to him
talking
after
about.
Oh
he.
yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good, actually. Yeah, I do remember that, Jar.
But
Anyway,
yeah,
so
so
sorry to bring you off
yeah,
topic, bro.
no, you're good, you're good. That's hilarious. But yeah, I guess I wanted to know, like, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. Are you changing with your art, or is your art changing with you, or does that go hand in hand?
Hmm. Not sure if I followed the question
So like as you
exactly.
grow as a human being, you have different perspectives. As you grow as an artist, you have different perspectives, right? And maybe you're like, oh, this last thing I could have done this better, or I actually wanted to do this. So then you move on and you do something else like you just did. So I'm just trying to figure out, is this something that you were actively like, I need to do something different because I want to change, or is it I've changed, therefore I want to do something different?
Hmm. Uh, I don't think it's one or the other. It's maybe a combination of both, but you know, in art, I think there really isn't any mistake. like when you're going after something, whether you're continuing what people would like to call an old style, or you're exploring a new one, unless you're driven by kind of other motives that kind of interfere with the creative process, there really isn't. When you're making art, really, you kind of get into a zone where nothing else really matters. And whether I've changed, whether these kind of thoughts go into my head in the middle of making art, the majority of the time you're really in a zone where, at least I would like to think so, that you aren't really influenced by any of these things. You're pretty much only influenced by the curiosity of what this stroke did, or what this angle did. Like, oh wow, this sculpture looks way cooler when I zoom it out in VR, rather than just kind of. So now I'm gonna make this sculpture even smaller, rather than. You're not so like. I don't think that it's kind of like impossible to kind of go through this process in the middle of making art. And when, I guess, when the art is done, um and you're looking at it now, and we're looking at the projects now, I guess you can think of it as a way of the evolution here. But at the end of the day, it's still, I would like to think it's still, the philosophy is still the same. I'm like, I'm exploring something here that is still something that I truly believe that I was truly making for myself. And along with the platform that we have now, in Web3 and NFTs in general, it allows people. I get to open the door to that. Like, I allow people to come in, and they get to, whether they like it or not. This grants, like, people, like, we're talking about it right now. It's amazing. So, uh, pretty much, yeah. That's what
Yeah, I
it is.
mean, the cool thing is that 2 years ago, Jar was on Thor for Jarhead, the Mitt, right? And we have the audio of it, and we played it a while ago on Twitter. And Cardano Thor was like, "Well, what's next for Jar?" And Jar said, "You know what? I'm really, really wanting to explore VR." And so that was 2 years ago. And so the cool thing is that Jar began to explore what he set out to explore without knowing what the end result would be. And so this process, as he's talking about, is thinking about the next day or the next stroke or how it looks in this different angle. All those different, like, we don't see all the things that the artist goes through to get to a culmination of an idea, of a challenge. And the challenge and the curiosity of doing something in VR, you know, took like, the seed was planted years ago. And I think when people begin to see, like, this is not something that, like, oh, let's VR, let's put out something as quick as we can because it's hot right now or whatever, and we need to put it out and get it out. No, this was a couple of years of a seed growing, and now there has been some fruit from those roots that were planted with this VR. And so that's something cool that I've seen as I've listened to the old interviews, and then where we are today.
Yeah, that is kind of cool that you were like, yeah, I'm going to do VR. And then literally 2 years later, you're still doing VR. Like, you did set out and did exactly what you said you were going to do. And that is really cool. The reason why I asked, like, is it a change from you, or is it something that you just actively were like, I'm going to try to make myself change to better myself, is just because I feel like different people have different ways of interpreting that. I think some people kind of go with the flow, and you seem like that person. You seem very at ease, and you seem like, oh, well, I want to make this art, so this is what I'm going to do. That's fine. And, I also want to do this, so I'll do that too. And that's fine. Like, very matter of the fact, very, like, in the zone, like, no external BS, which is really nice. But I've also spoken with, other artists who had, issues with drug use or family issues or whatever, and it affected their art, and they changed and tried different things, throughout their journey, because they're changing as a person. And now, as a result of that, their art is going to change too. So I'm always curious to see, like, what is going on inside your head, so that's just kind of why I asked that question.
Right.
But
No, I mean, That's a great no, that's a great point. And I don't know, I think it definitely is something that can't be ignored when it comes to like the artists and their own individual journey. I mean, that's why it's nice to kind of have like the context behind, like the art itself. And like this is a question, can you this goes back to like a philosophical question, like can you separate the art from the artist? Or like it's like, but like this is like something that I've been thinking about as well. But given the time that we're in right now, especially with the community and everything else, as Sammy mentioned, I haven't been, I've kind of been like behind the scenes pretty much for everything, so uh it's challenging for an artist to kind of have to go through this new world, actually. So maybe in time for sure, but it's definitely something that has a lot more story behind it for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because I was in the Jelly Cube Discord, which I hang out all the time, and there's some DJs in there, but there's some people that really know art and ETH art and stuff like that, and they mentioned and they were like, you know what, I love Jar stuff, and they were like, to be successful in Web3, an artist really has to be an ambassador for blockchain, an ambassador for the chain, has to be out there, and it got me thinking. And on the one hand, that's absolutely true, right? And on the other hand, does that have to be true? Like, does the artist have to be somebody who they're not if that's not who they are? So, like, look at Banksy, right? Is Banksy an ambassador for anything? I mean, surely he is, but through his art, right? Through his expression of art. And he does it in a specific way for him. There are many artists who are, they're just online all the time. That's what they do. They love to communicate with the community. They love to do those things. They love to, talk to different projects and collab, and that's great. But not everybody has to do it the same way. And I think that's the beauty of getting to know artists and getting to know who you are and being comfortable with who you are, but at the same time, growing in areas. So like Jar doesn't have to be somebody that has to be successful in Web3. I think that's sometimes where we get it wrong. Like there's a formula, and if you don't do it, then you're probably not going to succeed or you're not going to mint out. And that could be true, but on the other token, it's like on the other side of the token, it's like, you know what? Do I have to go by the book and do it exactly just to quote unquote succeed? Or can I be who I am and learn to grow in areas that I'm weak in, but learn to communicate through my art or learn to communicate in other ways? And I think that's something that we have to philosophically start to think about, especially in this space where everyone's thinking about like succeed, minting out, making money, and those types of questions.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. If they have to be like a blockchain supporter in order to thrive on the blockchain that they're selling their NFTs on. Now, I would say they would at least have to have some knowledge about Cardano or Solana or Ethereum to want to, well, I'll say Solana and Cardano to mint on those blockchains, because the reason why I leave out Ethereum is because if you're trying to make the biggest bag possible, you might not care at all, and you could still mint on Ethereum, just trying to make your bags. Same with Solana, I guess, and Cardano, but they're nicher. They're a little bit newer. You need to know a little bit more. And if you don't know about a little bit more, why would you choose Cardano when Ethereum is clearly like leading in NFTs and stuff like that? But anyways, supporting Cardano specifically, like why did you, Jar, choose Cardano out of all the NFTs or out of all the ecosystems?
Luck. Like it was all luck. I was like 2 years ago, everyone's talking about NFTs. Like being an artist, like all my friends were like, yo man, like you should have you seen everything? As you can imagine, all the hype that was surrounding it. And I guess I was just lucky enough to have friends that, some of them were in ETH, but some of them were in Cardano as well. And I guess that, yeah, that was really pretty much the luck of it. And um, the guy that kind of pretty much pitched to me the idea of potentially having an NFT project, and I had no idea on how to differentiate ETH from Solana or Cardano, but spending time with the people like face to face, and them showing me what was different and why there are different like chains in the first place, that all just kind of led me to kind of feel a sense of, I guess, like security in a way, knowing that I had a friend that like was on it. So it could have gone any other way, really. So yeah.
And now, and now Jar has me because I'm a Cardano man. I mean, I like other chains too, of course. So we actually talked about this. We had you have to talk about this question, right? Because you want people to appreciate your art, and so we definitely talked about the question of like, is this something for the Cardano community? And we did seriously think about like, is this something that we should launch? Obviously always have our roots on Cardano, but is this something that we should launch on a different chain? And I mean, it is. I felt that we should, launch this on Cardano, and I made that known to Jar, um, because for various reasons. Um, and so we'll see if I'm right about the community. I hope that the Cardano community can grow in their appreciation for art, whether they meant this or not, and can grow in their appreciation for not minting 10 of them and 20 of them to flip 15 of them. I mean, I think there is that aspect, which is fine, especially if somebody's doing good. But I've I've always hoped that for real art projects that real Cardano community members would hold one or two of like the really good art projects. Like if we had a wallet distribution of 2,000 jar heads, and some people owned a few, and we had a wallet distribution of 1,000 to 2,000 wallets that own this collection, that would be ideal, because then people that are trying to get a piece or two or three to collect that they like, and if people want to make money off it, that's great. If people want to flip it, that's great. But this idea of learning to appreciate and collect art um, is lost in at least in Web3 as a whole, but especially we haven't hit that on Cardano yet. Like if you go to, I always use this, if you go to a flea market, Atlanick, and you're going to get a piece of art for your wall, and you find a piece of art at the flea market, is your first thought, oh, let me buy this so I can flip it to my neighbor? No, of course not. Your thought is, yo, I'm putting this up because it's going to look really good on my wall right there. And we just don't have that mindset here yet. And so little by little, we hope that our project, our collection can be a helpful aid in that progression.
Yeah, I've been thinking about how NFTs would gain traction again, besides what they're doing now. And what they're doing now is like, hey, own this brand new NFT and you can, get whitelist to a coin, because really the only thing popping off right now on DeFi are coins, are meme coins more specifically. Sure, there's also liquid finance coming up, or fluid tokens rather. So shout outs to them coming up this month. I think it's next week or the week after. So there are other projects in that, but it just seems like every NFT that's coming out now is like, hey, you can get whitelisted for this coin that we're going to give out and stuff like that. And they're not really holding for holding's sake. They're holding for the coin's sake. And then as soon as it comes out, they dump. But I've been thinking, if there was a metaverse, and I know metaverse was the buzzword of like 2 years ago, and everybody hates that word now. But if there was some sort of either video game or online presence where I could post my jar heads and my friends could come and see, then I could be proud of like this house that I've built and all this art that I own, and like it can look a certain way. I could maybe own an entire blue collection on one wall, and then like an entire dark collection on another wall, and like really differentiate like that, and kind of like humbly or not flex on my friends, right? And I think that that's what we need. Like, we buy the painting at the flea market because we can put it in our home and flex to our friends that come over, right? And it's not a flex in the sense of like, I have more money than you, but it's in the sense of like, look at my taste. Like, do you agree with my taste? I'm proud of my taste. And it's really hard to own an NFT at the moment because, well, that's an art NFT without being able to show it. The only way to show it would be to make it your Twitter profile picture or your Discord banner or something like that. So do you guys think that with more use cases for art NFTs will come higher value of art NFTs?
Sure. I mean, listen, look at Samsung art frames, right? Like those look beautiful. Like, are maybe those are going to be not $999 anymore. Maybe they're going to be 300-400 in the future, and everyone's going to have a TV, a flat screen that basically doubles as an art frame. So there's going to be lots of different opportunities like that. But also, we understood that people like physical stuff too. So that's kind of the last aspect that we probably want to touch upon is that we have 10 special NFTs in the collection that are going to be minted randomly, and you're going to be sent 12 by 18 printed version of yours, and you'll see that on the Medium article. We have a printer, and it's also going to be painted over specially by Jar. And what that does is that shows that we're going to be suggesting printing sizes if people want to print these in the future for their homes. Like maybe you want to print a sunrise and a noon and a sunset and make it like a trio in your bathroom or something, right? So we do feel like though digital and physical can be both, especially something like this. Like you might not want to put a PFP of a weird ape in your living room when you have your mom's friend come over and be like, what the heck is that, right? But when you have something like what I think is beautiful in this collection, you can really create some really cool small pieces of physical prints. But then this aspect of Jar doing painting over the NFT print is something that we want to explore in the future too.
Yeah, no, this is really something I think for me that gives more runway, like to kind of merge the physical and the digital. Because as you said, like it's difficult now for art focused projects to kind of exist in a way that the owners themselves can show it off to their friends, or like if it's not their profile picture, right? Like how else are they going to show it? Which is why I think now with this project in particular, we have an opportunity to kind of bridge those two together, as Sammy said. And I'm very excited to paint on the 10 and to kind of give uh, the owners this kind of like physical aspect to their NFT. But at the same time, hopefully this conversation can develop and more people can kind of, like understand that this, like art in general and NFTs, I think this is something that really has to be kind of talked about more, because I'm not sure how the landscape or for art centered projects will look like if the problem that you mentioned continues. So it's definitely something we all have to think about and kind of at least fight for.
Yeah, and it's not even like a full-fledged like problem. It's just, I mean, because your last collection minted out 33 ADA went parabolic. So like there is a market for these, right? But not necessarily, we don't know yet for the new collection, but there is a market for art and your art, right? So who knows what these could do. But I did want to ask this question. It's funny that you brought up, Thor asking you this question too. Like, so what's next for Jar? That's my question too. Like you said you're going to do something last time, 2 years later, here you are. So what are you telling us 2 years down the road?
Yeah, that is a good question. So I'm really loving VR, and I don't think I've said this to anyone or even Sammy or any of the team. But I do would love, as you mentioned, like how else are you gonna show this to people, and like if it's like a metaverse world or anything like that. But um, I would love to continue making stuff in VR, and actually do something where I can actually have the community engage. I was planning on doing some actually live VR sessions where hopefully at the end I can give the people who are watching uh, a chance to own the NFT of the VR things that I'm sculpturing in that session alone. And I think that could be something where I can actually actively participate more with the community, have the community see how I work, and at the same time, kind of build a world where these clouds can exist. And I'm not promising like a new collection or a collection that has this much NFTs in them, but to kind of like slowly build out a way where we can all where like I'm making art at the same time they can participate as well. So uh yeah, who knows, 2 years in the future again, let's see, I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking too when you were talking about like all the things that you build and going into VR. I was just like, man, if this cloud or if this picture sunrise was in a game, this would be beautiful. Like again, I could just stare at the game. Like I'm maybe supposed to be doing a quest or whatever, but it's late and I'm tired and I'm just sitting there and I'm zoned out and I'm just staring at this beautiful sky, right? So are you interested in maybe building an environment for a metaverse or for a game or something
Well,
along those lines?
well, wow, you're getting crazy now. But what's interesting is that we were on Caldano, the podcast. I don't know, 3 weeks ago, and the person that went right before us was Cornucopius and Rob over there. And what's interesting is that Cornucopius, there actually probably is a world which this would be feasible. And I say that for two different things. Number one, they're very community oriented. Number two, they have the biggest, um, they have the biggest, whatever you want to call it, MM. What do they call it? MM. Um,
Oh,
anyway,
MMORPG?
yeah, they have the biggest one on Cardano, and it's gonna be probably one of the biggest, 10 across all chains. And they have the cycle of the whole day as you play, right? So I don't know if you've been following Cornucopias, but they have this cycle of, let's say you enter the game, you're going to be entering the game either at nighttime, in the morning, in the daytime. And so they have this aspect of a full day and a continuous day in their world. And they have a really great team of devs. And so there is a world where one of the top artists on Cardano can do, let's say in Solist, right, one of their areas, where Jar crafts, like 10 different sculptures of clouds, and they're around in the environment in Solist. And if you go around and you look up, you go like, oh, that's one of Jar's clouds right there. I could see that happening. That is a possibility. So in this sort of hypothetical thing of could there be a metaverse? Maybe if we got in touch with Rob and them and we created a 3D cloud and sculptures that they could place them in their metaverse. That's a possibility, and that's very interesting.
As you bring that up, I'm just thinking because Bethesda games like Fallout and Skyrim, they're heavily moddable, right? So if they make their game decently moddable, we could, in theory, just put whatever NFT we want into creating our own background assets. And maybe that's something that they could do.
That's interesting too, because you'll have, like, when you mint the NFT, you get the GLB file, right? And the GLB file could technically be thrown into a world if the technology is there. Now, how the environment interacts with that sculpture is the question, right? Because there's so many different variables, which is why when people look at the output of the PNG, they're not understanding all the different aspects that go into creating that PNG, especially in the 3D world, and how that 3D world is not transferable to, like, somebody thinks that they're going to mint an NFT and put on their VR and look at that in all different angles in that environment with that lighting. There's just so many different levels of software that have to take place on 3,000 different NFTs that it's just impossible at this point. Like if it was one environment with one light setting for everybody, that's different, right? But we're talking about 3,000 different ones. So if you took a GLB file and you put it into an environment, and how that environment interacts with that 3D, I'm sure it's possible. It's above my pay grade.
I mean, with AI coming out, I'm sure we can do some incredible things in the future. But just as like a simple quick fix to try to make it decent is like, for example, this dark cloud that we have up on the screen right here. You could take different angles and different colors of each side of this through like just color picker, something simple. And you could use that to like use a variation of those colors throughout the sky. And then, you know, the main cloud itself could be used as like just a few clouds randomly. And I think that could be doable. And now, sure, could people put in random, you know, NFTs that aren't even clouds? And would that mess with things? Like, of course it would, right? But, you know, I think there's potential somewhere.
No, same, man. I really think so too. Hopefully, you know, like after this project's released, like we can kind of I guess meet people who are kind of like can actually help us make this a reality, because definitely not a techie as but yeah, I already see it happening, and if I can see it, then why not, right?
Yeah, 100%. And we are on the 1 hour mark. So I just want to let everybody know, if anybody in the stream has any questions, now's the time to ask. I mean, it's always the time to ask, but if you had anything, we're going to wrap it up. And if there's anything that you guys wanted to talk about that maybe I didn't cover, you can just let me know. And then last thing before I let y'all go is I have all of their socials in the description below. So if you want to go check them out, you know, just go check it out.
I mean, I think we covered. I mean, this was nice, bro. I appreciate you having us. I thought you did a great job of kind of understanding the project, and it's not easy to have, you know, an art project come on, and especially during meme coin season, right? So it's like you're going against the tide. But I think you did a great job, and we got to talk about a lot of different aspects of it, both philosophically and informational.
Likewise,
Appreciate it.
man. Likewise, I really enjoyed this one. I think it opens some questions, I guess, also for the future. Um, so yeah, would definitely love to run this back. Who knows, 2 years later, we might have something.
Definitely, man. Yeah, like with the meme coins, man. Oh my God, there's always like 30 freaking meme coins launching every day. Y'all be careful out there. And you know, I have my Twitter out there. I do repost like new meme coins every once in a while, but like I just hope everybody knows that these are supposed to be get in and get out. Do not hold any of these bags. These are dumb coins that are just coming out. Like, bro, there's like, I was gonna say PP coin, but that one's actually somewhat legit. You get the picture. Just be careful, y'all. But yeah, anyways, I guess we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys for coming on. Definitely go check out Jar's previous collection if you want. Wait, has a snapshot already been taken?
Snapshot will be taken. No, snapshot hasn't been taken. It'll be taken between 4 p.m. UTC and 6 p.m. UTC tomorrow. So you got up to 2 hours before the mint to where the snapshot will be taken. So anywhere in that 2 hour window before the mint, the snapshot could be taken. So if you want to get a jar head now and you want to mint for 79 ADA, pick it up before 4 p.m. UTC, and then the mint for holders start at 6 p.m. UTC, and we'll go for 24 hours. And then the public will commence after that for 119 ADA, and then that'll run until we mint out, whether it's a day, 2 days, a month, 2 months. We don't know. So all those meme coin profits, maybe people can put into tomorrow. We'll see.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate y'all for coming out. Jar, I appreciate you, man. It's so cool that I finally got to talk with you. Jarheads, you know, absolutely blew up. I'm excited to see what these clouds can do, man.
No,
But
thank you so much, man, and thank you for having us on.
Yeah,
Let's do it again sometime.
forget to the moon, to the clouds. Let's go.
to the clouds, baby. But yeah, guys, thank you guys so much. And to all y'all watching out there, remember to get outside, see your friends, see your family. We're here to make more money so that we can spend more time with them. Until next time, guys. Peace.
See you.
And